Harmonics are a wave with a frequency that is a positive integer multiple of the frequency of the original wave, known as the fundamental frequency. I have no idea what that means. What's up, metalheads? I'm Emma, the heavy metal lawyer, and today I'm doing a video on the history of harmonics in metal. Now, I'm not a physicist, so again, that technical definition I just gave makes no sense to me. But what I can tell you is the practical definition in music. Harmonics are a way to play certain notes on string instruments that allows you to play higher than the string could otherwise be played and in a different timbre. And that timbre is a bit difficult to describe, so I'll just give you some examples. First, we have the natural harmonics coming from the beginning of the song Toes Across the Floor by Blind Melon. And then we have pinch harmonics courtesy of modern death metal band 200 Stab Wounds in their song Itty Bitty Pieces. Natural harmonics are played by lightly placing the finger at certain positions on the string without actually pressing it down onto the neck of the instrument, which allows the string to resonate at a different frequency. Pinch harmonics, as the name suggests, are accomplished by pinching the string with the picking hand to catch the normal frequency of the string and stop it from being played, and instead you hear the harmonic overtone, which in the case of an electric guitar is that trademark squeal sound. Like most metal guitar techniques, from sweeps to finger tapping, these all originally came from either classical music or jazz music. But those connections are a bit too distant for the first metal guitarist to usually be aware of. Instead, the pivotal precursor to harmonics in metal was the technique being used by hard rock band ZZ Top, most famously in the guitar solo to their song La Grange off the album Tres Hombres, which came out in 1973. ZZ Top's big sound had a huge influence on early heavy metal in general, as shown by, for example, Motorhead releasing an EP titled and containing a cover of the ZZ Top song Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers. And notably, one band outright accused of ripping off ZZ Top is Judas Priest. Part of Judas Priest's signature sound is having two lead guitarists, K.K. Downing and Glenn Tipton, at least for their classic albums. While Tipton's solos were more guided by classic hard rock music like Jimi Hendrix, Downing played a major role in popularizing pinch harmonics in heavy metal with his more furious style of guitar playing. Harmonics started taking a prominent role in Judas Priest's music with one of my favorite Judas Priest albums, Stained Class. If you listen to the opening track Exciter, pinch harmonics play a big role in the first guitar solo, and interestingly, the two pinch harmonics in rapid succession are an E and then a D. The tabs I've looked at disagree on whether this is played on the G or the D string, but regardless, D is actually a natural harmonic on either the G or D string on the 7th or 12th fret respectively. It's a very nifty idea because it creates this warbly, uncanny valley sound to the notes in what is otherwise a pretty standard guitar solo progression down the scale. But while this certainly had a more metallic sound than the bluesy use of harmonics by ZZ Top, it was still only one step removed from that use of harmonics. The next step in the evolution of harmonics in heavy metal involved something more evil. I am, of course, referencing one of the most famous heavy metal songs of all time, a song that has been played to death but still somehow is a blast to listen to, Raining Blood by Slayer. Now, there actually is some debate on the internet about where there are pinch harmonics in this song because both the atmospheric opening of the song and guitar solo closer are so strange and dissonant and unmelodic that it's difficult to tell what is being played. Adding to the confusion is that Slayer plays both of these parts differently every time they play it live, and as far as I've been able to find, there's no confirmation on what is being played in the studio version of the song, with the official sheet music just not showing anything for the introduction. For what it's worth, I think there are harmonics in both the intro and in the guitar solo, more clearly in the intro because the heavy use of the whammy bar in the guitar solo does make it really difficult to tell exactly what is going on. But the one part that inarguably features harmonics is the harmonizing iconic guitar riff. The murky, creepy, atmospheric introduction breaks out into drums and the iconic riff. After the riff is played twice, it is joined by another guitar playing the same riff in harmony, except upping the menacing factor by throwing in some pinch harmonics. Now, I don't know for sure where Slayer got the idea to throw in pinch harmonics into their riffs, but I do know the band was very influenced by the darker side of 80s hardcore, and the thing that comes to my mind when I listen to that use of harmonics in the riff is the band Void, especially my favorite song by them, Get Out of My Way. This song doesn't actually have harmonics in it. Instead, the band has fucked up their guitar and amp so much that when the strings aren't resonating, it produces immediately a very loud feedback. You'll notice, however, that the feedback is always the same pitch. It's being used in a very intentional way. And thus the back and forth between the played chords and the feedback together creates this melody, albeit a dissonant one. And returning to Slayer, who also love to use feedback, their use of pinch harmonics in Raining Blood has a similar effect. As I talked about in another video in regards to melodic death metal, harmonizing guitars is an easy way to create melody where you wouldn't normally have melody. But of course, the sound of Raining Blood was supposed to be atonal, not melodic. So to prevent the iconic riff from sounding too melodic with the harmonizing guitar parts, Slayer threw in some pinch harmonics to keep it from sounding too much in unison. So, like Void, they were able to achieve this kind of dissonant melody and have it both ways, which is why the riff is both so catchy, but no one would ever say it was pretty. Pinch harmonics also played a big part in groove metal from its inception in the 1990s, featuring prominently in riffs like Cemetery Gates by Pantera. At the same time, some death metal bands were starting to incorporate pinch harmonics into their riffs as well, particularly in the New York death metal scene with songs like Devour Death by Incantation. It is no coincidence that pinch harmonics showed up in both groove metal and the more groove-oriented death metal around the same time. Pinch harmonics, when used in moderation, can help create a groove in the riff by the use of the pinch harmonics to emphasize certain beats. So in the case of Devour Death, the chorus riff is 2 measures long. Both measures start with an E chord half note. In the first measure, that's followed by 2 pinch harmonic eighth notes emphasizing the third beat. And then in the second measure, it's a pinch harmonic quarter note emphasizing the fourth beat. So it rocks you back and forth between emphasizing the third beat and emphasizing the fourth beat. And there's your groove. However, this also led to harmonics becoming oversaturated when the technique was adopted ab absurdum by the subgenres metalcore and deathcore. While it came early enough that teenage Emma didn't realize it was a foreboding sign of things to come, Avenged Sevenfold sounding the seventh trumpet epitomizes this oversaturation. If you listen to the track Turn the Other Way, for example, it features not one, not 2, but 3 different riffs that repeatedly use harmonics. Consequently, a lot of extreme metal musicians turned against the use of pinch harmonics, at least in riffs, because of its association with the more mainstream parts of extreme metal, like metalcore. However, there has recently been a resurgence in the use of pinch harmonics in extreme metal. As I mentioned at the beginning, the Maggot Stomp boys like 200 Stab Wounds have unabashedly used it, much to the chagrin of some of their haters. I saw someone on the internet, for example, say the pinch harmonic laden riff of Sangui Sugabog's song Dead as Shit was quote-unquote the worst riff he had ever heard. But on the other side of the spectrum of complexity and prog wankery is nerdy favorite Blood Incantation, who have definitely used pinch harmonics with other old school death metal techniques to anchor their music as being death metal, despite the far out mathematical directions it takes. Ultimately, I do think pinch harmonics did become oversaturated in the 2000s and some of the disdain was deserved. But at the same time, it would be foolish to abandon such a useful and versatile guitar technique that can do everything from creating the soaring sounds in traditional heavy metal guitar solos to the wretched dissonance in caveman slam death metal riffs. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think about pinch harmonics. Are they overused? Do you really like them in death metal riffs? Let me know what you think.